Greetings YouTube, Skill Incarnate bringing you all the latest indie gaming goodness. Today I'm joining you from my base in Drayton, where we are continuing on with my Project Zomboid tutorial series. Now, the subject we're going to cover today is cooking, and also the boiling of water, two things that are very important. But especially the boiling of water. Water is essential to your survival. And if you don't know how to prepare water and make it safe, then you're not going to survive very long in this game. So let's get some water first. Now, as you can see, it is currently raining, and that's probably not going to be helpful for our tutorial today, because I wanted to cook outside. But let's head up to the north, and I'm going to get some water. Now, if you don't have a water collector, then you might be in a bit of trouble, unless you are near a source of water, like a lake or a stream. We have a stream here, up to the north. Now, to gather water from any body of, to get water from any of these bodies of water here, you'll need an item like a kettle or a cooking pot. You can fill up an empty bottle, but I don't recommend it, because you can only boil water in something that can be placed on a campfire. And that's going to be a kettle, like the copper kettle we've got here, or a cooking pot. Just got to get rid of this hoard here, so that we can fill up our water in peace. And that's one of the things that you need to do, is to make sure that you aren't surrounded at the time by zombies. Let's lose these guys, and I'll try and fill it up at the bottom of the lake. There's some more here. There we go. Try and lose these guys. Now, I've filled up the kettle with water, but as you can see, it's tainted. The water is not safe to drink yet. We're going to need to boil that water. Oh, survival axe. We're going to need to boil that water to make it safe to drink, to make it drinkable. So let's do that now. Now, this is a campfire, and to make a campfire, you will need either 2 logs, which we have here, or two planks. Now, as you can see here, we can't make a campfire, and that's because we don't have an ignition source. And to get an ignition source, the easiest way is to get some ripped sheets. And the easiest way to get ripped sheets, of course, is to find a zombie corpse, right click and select rip clothing. Now, while we're down here, I'm also going to give you another tip about fires. Zombie shoes, for some reason, very flammable. Pick up shoes, pick up vests. In fact, any item of clothing that you can get, make an excellent fuel for a fire. You can even rip the clothing up into ripped sheets like this and add them individually to the fire, but I just tend to throw an entire item of clothing onto the fire, and that will keep the fire going for a very long time. Now, in our case, it is raining, so that's going to make things a little bit difficult for us. You can cook when it's raining, but it means that your fire is going to go out very quick. So we need to be a little bit strategic in how we're going to do this today. Now, the fire is basically a container which you fill with what you want to cook. You turn the fire on and you wait until the item's cooked, and you take it out of the fire before it burns. To make a fire, we need 3 planks, and to make a campfire kit, we have, of course, our ripped sheet. and our 3 planks. Right click and you'll be able to make a campfire kit. Here's one, of course, I prepared earlier. Now to get the campfire, when you built it, it will show in your inventory like this. And it can be placed wherever you want. But there's something that you need to know with fires. As in real life, you never want to put a campfire inside. And you always want to make sure that the campfire is somewhere safe where no one, for example, a hungry zombie, will happen to walk through it and ruin your day. Now the campfire is on the ground, we're going to put something into the campfire. Which is, of course, our item that we want to cook. Now, unfortunately, I am a bit wet, but the Hydrocraft mod gives us our handy-dandy raincoat. So now I can cook in peace in the rain and I won't get wet. Now, adding one item to the fire to cook is a waste. Always batch cook. Cook as much as you can, because the more that you cook, the more your cooking skill will go up. And before you even consider cooking, read a cooking book. Depending on your cooking skill, you'll either need the beginner's book, like the one that I've read, or the intermediate one, the Cooking for Beginners book, unless you've chosen to be a chef, will be the one that you want to read first. Now, if you want to know where to find these books, I did know a tutorial on how to find bookstores and where to find books in houses, but basically you'll need to look through houses and, if you're lucky, a bookstore until you find a Cooking for Beginners book. Don't start cooking until you've read this, because your cooking skill will just go up too slowly without it, unless you're desperate. Now, the next thing that we want to build is, I'm going to show you how to make a stir fry and a soup and a roast. Now what you want to do is take what you'll need for a stir fry is a frying pan, and what you'll need for a roast is a roasting pan and a cooking pot for soup. You'll find them in a kitchen like this. In fact, I think I did find my cooking pot in this kitchen. And frying pans, they're plenty easy to find around kitchens and shops. Any of these counters, you can see that we've got one in here even. Cooking pots, they're not hard to find. Walk up to your fridge or your container with your fresh food, and always try and cook your fresh food first for obvious reasons. Right click on the frying pan and you'll be able to create a stir fry. And the tip that I'm going to give you here is, when you're making your food, always make sure to pick something that's not fresh. Try and cook your oldest food first. As you can see, this radish does not have the fresh logo beside it, the fresh label. And we want to cook this first, the radish and the cabbage, because they're actually going to become rotten first. Let's do that. It seems that cabbage has actually gone rotten. We can't cook. Now there are three different types of food freshness. If it has a fresh icon next to it, it means the food is really fresh and it can be eaten as is. If the food has been sitting there for a few days, it will lose its freshness, and you'll lose the fresh icon next to the food. As you can see, this lettuce is no longer fresh. Now you still can eat it, but it means that you'll take a hit to your boredom and your unhappiness. If you cook the food, it'll actually drop this boredom and unhappiness loss. As you can see, the radish. Now we're only going to get a small hunger bonus for that, but we want to try and not make ourselves depressed. So we're going to add the other radish to the dish. Now another tip I'm going to give you is, the more varieties of food that you add to a dish, the bigger the bonus that you'll get. You get a boredom and unhappiness boost of 5 for every different type of food that you add. So let's try and add a avocado. Now you'll see this go up to 10. And let's add a bell pepper. Bell pepper may have gone rotten actually. It has. So one of the bugs in the game is that sometimes when you're adding something for a fridge, it may actually be rotten. So you may need to actually go into your fridge and pull out the food that you want to cook. Now one thing that worries me a little bit is obviously this food is starting to go off, so I'm going to have to start getting a move on and adding a farm to my base, or I'm going to go hungry. Now it's the same deal with roasts. Right click, add what you want to add, and you're all good. Now the last thing that I'm going to cover is how to make a soup. Now you'll need to fill the cooking pot with water. Now you can actually fill it from the lake. I could have actually gone and filled this from the lake, but since we've got our water still running, with the cooking pot with water, you only need a little bit of water. Right click and you can make a soup. As you can see here, we now have a zucchini soup. We'll add one more zucchini. The more food that you add, the higher the hunger bonus that you'll get. But obviously, you need to add different types of food if you want to increase your boredom and unhappiness bonus. Now, the last thing we want to do is add a spice. Now, these are spices, fish seasoning. You'll find these all around the world. They're added by the Hydrocraft mod. If you don't have the Hydrocraft mod, you can actually use salt or pepper. I think I've got some here. Pepper. So we can add pepper as a spice to this to make it will increase the. It'll give us a bit of a bump to our boredom and unhappiness. As you can see, boredom and unhappiness went up to 7. It didn't increase the hunger bonus, but it's just basically if you're unhappy, it's a really easy way to increase the boredom and unhappiness bump that you'll get. So what we want to now do is we want to place all the food that we want to cook into our container, into our cooking container here, our campfire. There we go. So we've actually got enough food here for 2 or 3 days. So my character's actually really hungry. So we're probably going to eat one of these straight away, and the other one we'll probably take with us to eat as we get hungry. So that's all ready to go, but we now need to start that fire to cook it. Now there are 2 ways that you can start a fire. If you're lucky, you'll have a lighter, or you'll have a pack of matches. Now if you don't have these, what you may need to do is to build yourself a notched wooden plank or a campfire kit, a starter kit to light the fire. Now to make the starter kit, you'll need a knife or a screwdriver. I have a knife here. Kitchen knife. There again, you'll find these in most kitchens. Never ever use all your knives to kill zombies. Always keep one for crafting. Right click on any plank and you'll be able to make a drilled plank. Let's make one now. There we go. We now have a notched wooden plank. That's just a plank with a hole in it. And for those who've never been to the Scouts, myself included, the Scouts weren't available when I was little, you rub the stick and the plank together and it will create a spark which you can use to light your fire with along with some kindling. Now we've got some sturdy sticks, but to make sturdy sticks, you'll need a saw. Again, we're in a hardware store, so that wasn't too hard to get. Right click on a plank and you'll be able to make a sturdy stick. Let's just make the one. So what we'll do now is we'll rub the sturdy stick and the plank together, and that will make a fire. So this is assuming that you don't have a lighter, you don't have matches, or you've used them all, worst case scenario. Right click on the fire and we'll add some fuel. In this case, we're going to add those dead zombie shoes. I generally add at least 3 items of fuel to the fire to make sure that it's going to stay on for a while. Shoes are always easy to come by, and for some reason they are very flammable. There we go. Now we've added 3 items to the fuel, let's light the fire. Now because we're standing here, we're rubbing the stick together, this is not always going to work first time. It's also going to make your character very tired. So I don't suggest doing this unless you're somewhere very safe. You're going to need to do this a few times, and sometimes it may not even work. You may actually do it because your character will get more and more tired with each attempt, and you may actually need to go and rest and come back and try again. Hopefully we'll actually pull this off on our first attempt. If not, I may need to actually go and get a pack of matches and light it the old-fashioned way. Or light it the easier way. Unfortunately, yes, this will make us very tired. We have a high exertion at the moment. That hasn't worked. Let's go and have a rest. As you can see, we're very hungry at the moment. So we do need to light this fire so we can eat something. Here's hoping I manage to pull it off. Okay, unfortunately, you will sometimes have these situations. Thankfully, I came prepared, and in an earlier episode of my Let's Play series, I raided one of the local petrol stations, and I grabbed a heap of lighters. As you can see, nice and easy. So that fire is now lit, and it will cook this food. Everything that's in the fire will be cooked. It will take a little while to complete cooking, and you'll see this little bar underneath. That will give you an indication of how far along the food is before you need to take it out of the fire. And what you'll need to do is continually add fuel to the fire to keep the fire going. Keep adding fuel. Again, the easiest source of fuel to find for a fire is clothing. Dead zombies, if you're playing and you're doing really well, you'll find that there is no shortage of clothing. Shoes, ripped sheets, pants, shirts, any of that will make a viable source of fuel for a fire. And if you really get desperate, you can actually add the sturdy sticks or planks or even logs. Now, if it was raining and you absolutely had to light this fire, my suggestion would be to actually add a log as a fuel source to the fire, or one of these planks. Now this is obviously a big waste, and I never ever suggest you add a plank as a fuel source to a fire unless you're desperate. Wood in this game, it can be used many different ways. It's very handy to have, and you shouldn't really ever use wood as a fuel source. It is a little bit of a waste, especially when we've got plenty of dead bodies that we can add. Now I want to mention one of my subscribers, Delilah from Down Under, who added the tip that you can actually add a dead body as a source for a fire, or they believe that you can add a source of a dead body as a source for a fire. You can't actually add the source of body as the body as a source of fuel, but you can actually burn a dead body and turn them into charcoal. So thanks, Delilah from Down Under. Your tip wasn't 100% accurate in terms of the fire, but looking around from that, I actually worked out that you can actually make bags of charcoal. And we're going to cover what you can do with charcoal in a future episode, but suffice to say, it's a very useful item. Okay, so as you can see, this is now cooked, and it's burning. You can see that the burning icon is at the bottom there. I don't know if you can see it. We want to take the food off the fire before it burns. When food becomes burnt, you will actually become sick if you eat burnt food. Never eat burnt food unless you have to. And all of this food is now cooked. And as you can see, the copper kettle now has the skull icon, and the message saying this tainted is now gone. This water is now safe to drink. Last thing you want to do, right click on your fire and put it out. And there you go. So let's say that you don't have any of what you need. You're between a rock and a hard place. You want to eat, and you also want to get the happiness bonus. Now what you can do is you can make yourself a salad. The easiest way to go about making a salad is to get yourself a bowl. Again, you'll find a bowl in any kitchen. Right click on the bowl and you can make a salad. Now you obviously need something to make a salad with, like an item of food. Right click, create salad, and it's much the same as creating a stir fry or a roast. The only thing is with a salad is you'll get less value from the food. So a salad is only really something you want to make when you don't have access to a fire, or you don't have the ingredients that you need for, like you don't have matches, you don't have a lighter, you don't have a cooking pot, or you don't have a frying pan. It's also good when you're on the run. If you're out on a scouting run around town, you can't get back to your base, you don't have time to cook. As you can see, all you need is a bowl and an item of food. You don't need a knife. You can just actually break it up with your hands and make a salad. And as you can see, you will get a small bonus to your boredom and unhappiness. Now, these are the common things that I cook, and something that you'll need to know is that this is nothing but the tip of the iceberg. I'm showing you the absolute most basic things that you can make. There is so many things that you can cook, especially with the Hydrocraft mod. There are so many extra things that you can make, but this is pretty much what you're going to start with, because the more you cook, the more you will increase your cooking skill. And if you can get your cooking skill up high enough, you'll be able to do fantastic stuff like preserve food, dry vegetables and fruits, cure meats, make food that will actually not rot. So when you get cooking skill up high enough, you'll actually be able to get this food and preserve it so that it doesn't rot. And basically, that means that you won't need as big of a farm. Now, what we'll do is, because I'm about to go out, there's some zombies beating at the front door. I want to go out and start fighting them. I want to take some food with me. I don't want to carry these containers, they're heavy. So for soups, you can right click on the soup and you can make a bowl of soup. You can make 2 bowls or 4 bowls. And what that does is it pours the soup out of the out of the cooking pot, gives you the empty pot, which you can now put away, and you'll have 2 fresh bowls of soup. And you can take those bowls with you. They won't spill. You can carry them in your backpack and you can eat them whenever you want. Same with your frying pan. When you've eaten the food, you've eaten the stir fry, you'll empty out the frying pan and you'll be able to reuse it. So yeah, that's cooking. It's a very handy skill to have. Even if you don't cook, even if that's not something that you want to do, I still think that it's important to know how to boil water, because eventually you will need to boil water. You will run out, and without the right equipment to boil water, you'll die of thirst. So yeah, definitely something that you want to keep in mind. Definitely want to be able to boil water to prepare food. Make sure you're prepared. Make sure you've got all of those cooking implements available to you. And always make sure that you cook outside. Look around. Make sure no zombies wander through your fire. If a zombie wanders onto your fire, that's the last point I'm going to make. The reason why I put this fire up on the 2nd floor of the house, if a zombie was to run through that and then run into the building here, so let's say that door was open, he was to walk through that fire while it's lit, he would walk in the building, the whole house will burn down. I'll literally lose my whole base. The same would be true as if I was to walk on top of the fire when it was lit. I could light myself on fire. Now you can survive being lit on fire by running around very rapidly, but it will burn your body so bad that you'll be in really bad shape. So yeah, always try and avoid burning damage. Some burning damage you can survive. spend too much time in the fire and there's pretty much instant death. So yeah, use with care, cook outside, make sure that you're cooking in an area where it's fenced off. If you ever do need to cook on the ground level, what I would do is build a fence. I would take some nails and I would build a fence here, and I put my fire here so that I could cook in safety. Never cook out in the open. If you cook out in the open and you do get attacked, you can get bitten while you're trying to cook, or a zombie can run through the fire and can actually burn down your whole base. You could lose everything. So that's it for the tutorial today. I hope you found this interesting. That is but a tip of the iceberg on cooking. We've still got so much to cover. This is just basic cooking. So stay tuned for the next episode. I'm actually going to cover farming in my next episode. And I need to cover farming because it's made it painfully obvious that our little stash in here is actually starting to rot. I have a lot of food here, but it's now going to start going off. And if I don't get a farm going soon, then we might be in a little bit of trouble. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe, please leave your comments. I'm sorry this episode took so long. Tutorials actually take a lot of effort on my part. I have to gather materials. They're 3 or 4 times as hard as my regular episodes. So I'm glad that people have been getting some value out of them. I will continue with them, and the next one will hopefully be farming. Please subscribe if you found this useful. Leave your comments, and we'll see you for the next episode or the next tutorial, whichever comes first. Until next time, Skill Incarnate out.